This episode of On the Limb with Nature's Voice Game Calls is brought to you by Trout Routes. Trout Routes is a premier fishing app that strives to empower trout anglers with information to help you go further and discover new waters, new places, and new faces. Check them out at troutroutes.com. Trout Routes is proud to be able to connect you to local resources and experts, such as fly shops, guides, local brands, and nonprofits. Be sure to check them out at troutroutes.com or the Apple App Store and Google Play Store to download the app today.
All right, guys, welcome to another episode of On the Limb with Nature's Voice Game Calls. We've got Dave Young here on production this evening, and we also got Dan Hall back in on the phone.
Woo! Hey, it's good to be back, Mike. It's been I'll tell you what, it's actually been a nice 3 weeks off.
Yeah.
Had a real good vacation with the family.
I thought she was going to turn into Ric Flair there for a second.
Hey, you never know. I come in with that chop hand.
Yeah. Woo!
Woo!
All right, God. So it's been 3 weeks since we've had Dan on here. We had a good time, but we always have a good time with all three of us on here.
Yes, I had Dan
Yeah,
withdrawal.
y'all missed me.
Yeah, we missed you. You know, Taven was on here, and he was talking about Tavin. Oh, I say his name wrong every time.
Every time.
He's going to listen to this and be like, he said it again. So, anyways.
He's going to tell his grandma on you.
Yeah, he's going to tell old Meemaw on me. Oh, Lord. So, basically, this is going to be our last recorded fishing segment episode for this year, 2023. So, after this episode, you know, we've been talking about fishing for probably a good 2 months now, I'd say. Month and a half at least. We've had some good people on here, Bugsy Bates, Will Diffenbaugh. You know, we've had some really good people on here talking about fishing.
Yeah, we have Bubba on.
Bubba.
Yeah.
And different things different tactics and things like that. So now we're getting into the later part of summer. You know, people starting to go on vacations and people do charter fishing down south.
Yeah.
You know, and I personally done a charter fishing trip with this outfit that we're talking to tonight, and we had an amazing time. We did sea trout fishing. He took us inshore, and he put us on a ton of sea trout. I mean, we were slaying the sea trout.
Huh.
So, and you talk about good eating. Oh, my God. Whew.
Never even heard of sea trout.
Yeah.
I heard of sea bass.
Nope, sea
I had
trout.
sea bass. Sea bass is good.
Oh, yeah, sea trout, man, are amazing.
Yeah.
Huh.
Beautiful fish, too. I got some
Absolutely.
pictures I'll show you.
Oh, my gosh.
Yep. So tonight we have Carl Evans, like I was saying there on our Facebook Live. He's the owner-operator of Flatwater Outfitters based out of the Golden Isles, Georgia, Brunswick, St. Simon's Island area. They also do some stuff down in Florida. He'll tell us a little bit about that. I'm not sure what parts of Florida, but they do charters down in Florida as well. So just to fill you in on what we got coming up next week before we introduce Carl, we have, I'm saying this is our last fishing episode, so we're going to kick gears right into archery season, deer hunting. I mean, we're going to go right into the fall. So we've got all kinds of stuff coming up for that.
Cool.
But we do have Jeremy Preston, president of the West Virginia Deer Association, and he will be on next week talking about their summit that they're going to have.
Cool.
So
Awesome.
was that, Dan?
I said, oh, yeah, that's good.
Yes. So I don't have it open right now, but I will show it to you here before we get off. Make sure you remind me of that, Dave. I got their bags here that I wanted to show on the podcast that we had done for them from True Timber Outdoors. The drawstring bags that they done with their
We'll
logos.
show them on the live?
Yeah, show it on the live here later on. So, but without further ado, welcome with me, Carl Evans, owner-operator of Flatwater Outfitters based out of Georgia. Carl, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing great, fellas. How about y'all?
Man, Doing great.
Man, good.
Love it. Love being here.
Well, I'm happy to be here. I appreciate y'all having me.
Yeah, man, it's a pleasure. Dan just come back from down there in Florida. So what parts of Florida do you all guide in as well?
So I'm pretty specific in Florida. I stay in the Keys. I'll spend anywhere from 15 days to 30 days, depending on, bookings and how long I actually want to be down there doing nothing but fly fishing for tarpon. I do venture in the backcountry a little bit for some snook, redfish, bonefish, stuff like that. But primarily when I'm down there, I'm focusing on those fish coming down the ocean, those tarpon coming down, fly fishing.
I hear you. Dan, did you, I didn't get a reply back from you. Did you get the talking points?
I did, yeah.
Okay, good deal. All right, Carl. So starting out with our intro, we'll just go into your background and your experience. How long you been doing this, and what made you get into the charter business?
Yeah, absolutely. So it started out as I started when I was 17, 18. I got my license when I was 18 years old. My dad's been a guide there for over 50 years, so that kind of planted the seed for me. Been on the water there since before I can remember. And that's in Brunswick, Georgia, St. Simons, Jekyll, that whole Golden Isles area.
Yes, love it.
But, yeah, been there guiding, I guess, since I was 18. Of course, it was part-time through college, really helped pay some of the bills through college. And then spent about 11 years in law enforcement. That was the career that I'd kind of chosen and thought I would do full-time, right on through retirement. And just got to the point where it was not as rewarding as I thought it was going to be, and kept getting my heart pulled back towards the coast. I got stationed over on the Gulf Coast and moved all around when I was with U.S. Customs, and my heart just kept getting pulled back to the coast. So I decided, you know what, I'd much rather be happy than chase a career dollar. So I made the move full time about 6 years ago, and I've been full time guiding ever since then.
Buddy, I tell you, the world has changed, hasn't it, when it comes to the public safety arena?
It has. It is. It was a thankless job then, and it's become even more so now.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, for those guys that are still out there, all of my guys that I work with are still out there, and God bless them. It is a much tougher job than I was there, and it's getting tougher every day.
Yeah, definitely. And we appreciate your service there and the time that you put in, sir. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So hitting on that, you were talking about a lot of your locations. You do some in Florida and obviously out of Georgia. Where all do you guys do mainly your charter services out of?
So I'm primarily, I would say 95% of my business operates right there out of Brunswick, Georgia, near the Darien area. Now I fish from about Cumberland Island all the way up to just north of Sapelo Island. It's kind of the range that I stay in, depending on what we're doing. But that covers a whole lot of water there. We've got, for the short distance north and south that Georgia has for coastline, it makes up for it for the inland marshes and waterways that we have available, from deep sea all the way out to, the blue water fishing for pelagics, all the way in to freshwater species like panfish, brim, bass. We have a huge variety of fish that we can target, and in a relatively small area. So it allows us to be diverse, offer a lot of options for our people that want to come down and not have to travel, massive distances to get to target multiple species.
Sure. That's awesome. Yeah, that's one thing I love about the coastal fishing. You really don't know what you'll catch when you drop something in there.
Absolutely. And I tell you, that's another thing I've learned from fishing different areas. I've got it in, obviously South Florida and the Keys. I've done a little bit over in Louisiana, mostly recreational over in Louisiana when I was living there. But what I've learned from fishing those three distinct areas, excuse me, is that a fish is a fish is a fish. Those fish that a tarpon on the ocean acts a lot like a bass that's ambushing prey. When they ambush prey, they do it a certain way. They want to be as efficient as possible, and they want to expend as little energy as possible. So if you can set yourself up in locations or set yourself up in situations that make it easy for the fish to get your bait, you're already ahead of the game.
Yeah. One of the things I wanted to hit on there, and, we see a lot of this stuff when we're down there in Georgia in that coastal area, St. Simons and Brunswick, the Altama plantation, the WMA you have there. How much water is within that WMA that you all fish?
So I don't know specifically the surface area, but there is the Altamaha River itself borders that entire property. So there's some tributaries off the Altamaha River that, go all the way up within that management area. And that's public water as well, as well as the management area itself. Now, once you get up the Altamaha River, outside of the high water mark, save for a little bit of area, most of that is public land. So turkey season, if that Altamaha River is low and not flooded, which often in the springtime it is flooded, but when it's not, there's some amazing opportunities for turkey hunting there. It's not as pressured as other places. You can, if you're willing to get out and cross a couple of creeks, get your boots wet, get your knees wet if you need to, you can have some good times in that river swamp chasing those gobblers, and they like to talk down there.
Nice. Yeah, I'd say they do in them swampy areas like that.
Absolutely. There's nothing like that big down in that river swamp.
Yeah.
Pull one of them old swamp chickens out.
So
that's exactly right.
That's a correct saying. Altamaha.
Yep.
Altamaha.
That's it.
Oh, that's got to be like.
Good job, Michael. You learned something.
Yeah, I did, because I've never actually heard anybody say it. I've just always, read it on hats and things and thought that that's the way you say it. But
yep. So the Altamaha River, that's our main. I fish out of two-way marina 90% of the time, and literally the name two-way is if you go left coming out of that marina, you go into freshwater, and it'll take you, as far up that river as you want to go. And if you go right, in about 8 miles, you'll hit the Atlantic Ocean. So we're at the junction right there.
So about 3 years after you got out of law enforcement, we done a charter with you down there, and we did inshore. And
that's right.
Man, I tell you, we had a blast. You got us on some trout, man, and my son and his cousin they were slaying the fish.
It is an epic bite with those sea trout when they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. The bait is stacked up. It can be every cast for an hour, and it doesn't take long to get a good box of fish, and it's so much fun. It can get chaotic when it gets firing off like that, but it is a special bite when it happens the way it's supposed to.
Yeah, and they got on some nice size ones too. I mean, my son was catching 18, 19, 20 inchers. I mean, they have to be a certain size before you can keep them. Isn't it like over 16 or something like that?
So it's 14 inches in Georgia, and a good thing that most of our guides have gone to along the coast is we release everything over 18 inches.
That's good.
We'd love to see the state adopt that as a regulation. That's a whole nother process in itself, but I tell you what, I've been extremely proud of not only our recreational anglers, but our guides as well, and self-imposing some limits and, conservation-minded stuff. We're not trying to keep anybody from keeping fish. We just want to see the fishery sustained for our kids and our grandkids. The days it used to be evaluated on success when you go out on a charter is that you caught your limit of trout or your limit of redfish.
Yeah.
Well, it's 15 per person in Georgia over 14 inches. Man, if you take 4 people on the boat, you're talking about 60 trout.
Good Lord, yeah.
That's a ton. So we've kind of shifted that mindset, or we've tried to shift that mindset with our anglers to, hey, look, if you keep 10 apiece or 30 for the boat, that's more fillets than, you could eat in 5 sittings. So we kind of tried to slowly but surely shift that mindset. Hey, let's keep enough where you can have 5 good fresh meals. And then we'll let the rest go. And then next time you come down here, there'll be plenty of fish for everybody.
Exactly.
I mean, those days of us trying to keep 60 trout and all that, those are by the wayside for most of our anglers and the guides specifically. I think
All right, guys, sorry about the little interruption there. We've had, I think, about every technical issue we could have this evening.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah. What was it, 4 different devices gave us fits?
4 different devices just went out. It's like
something like that.
We don't have any storms in West Virginia right now. It's like, did we have some kind of a solar flare that messed our electronics up.
We got EMP'd by Russia.
Yeah. God.
It was the aliens.
So, Carl, let's get back into talking about some trout.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we were talking about our the limits and kind of the mindset changing from our anglers over 20 years ago versus now. And what we're happy to see is that a lot more conservation minded anglers and guides as well. So we've kind of got away from that. The only way it's a success is if you got the cooler full and the freezer filled, to more, let's keep enough for 2 or 3 fresh meals, and then we'll let the rest go and be able to enjoy them for the future. So that started with our redfish. We had a big movement last year and took it all the way to the point of getting a proposed regulation change on our redfish from 5 per person down to 3 per person. And it made it almost to the finish line before we had some politicians step in and put politics ahead of conservation. And we're still fighting the fight on that. But the advantage of that was that mindset trickled over into the other fish with our trout, triple tail, and all of that. So
yeah,
great situation to be in right now as an angler and a guide.
Yeah. And like you're talking about the legislative part, a lot of people don't realize it, but there's a backside of that to where, things happen in the background that a lot of people don't realize when it happens.
Absolutely.
With the legislation and things like that to get things passed and to, just kind of manage the conservation. It has to go through legislative process. And we do a couple segments on that every now and then with our guy here in West Virginia. So.
Right. Yeah, I mean, not to go down that rabbit hole, but Georgia's a unique situation where we can have regulation and rule changes through our DNR board of directors. But the other side of it is where they do have that authority to make a rule or regulation change. They do have to notify the legislator that there is a proposed rule change. And by doing that, I mean, I understand the checks and balances side of things, but by doing that, it allows politics to get in the mix of conservation, where really what we're trying to do is it benefits everyone by being conservative minded. So, but we're in a good way. We've got some great groups behind us on, some reasonable regulation changes that are good for everybody. Still allows people to keep fish, take some fish home to eat.
Yeah.
And we're happy to be in that medium road. And I think everybody, both the recreational anglers, the commercial anglers, and the guides, everybody's on the same page. The only people that we can't get behind it are our politicians. So yeah, well, that's probably the course for a lot of issues.
Talking on those limits and slot limits and all that kind of stuff. And I was in Florida on vacation here just recently, and we went out and did some deep sea fishing and what have you, and ended up pulling up a really, really, really nice red snapper. And I'm sure you're kind of familiar with that. Deep South Florida's regulations on it. There's a two-day season.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, everybody that was on the boat, we didn't have enough service to look it up. They're like, I don't think it's in right now. I think it's at the end of the month. And so we put it back. And surprisingly, I'm sure you've seen it. You got those little hooks you put on them, and you drop it back down to 100 feet, and it releases and lets the fish go.
Yep.
So we had that on it. We dropped it down to 200 feet. Brought it back up, fish was still there.
Right.
We dropped it down to 300 feet, brought it back up, fish was still there. Like, what the crap? So this fish literally gave us 3 opportunities to keep him, because it was that weekend that I caught him.
Right.
It was the 15th and 16th, and I caught him on the 15th. So in reality, I could have kept that red snapper.
Yeah.
Yep.
Dan was telling me about that. I was like, you've got to be kidding me.
I was so sick. Once we got back to service and we looked it up, I was like, oh, man, we could have kept him.
Yeah, the red snapper, that's a whole other hot button topic issue. A federally managed species, on the Atlantic side, you got the South Atlantic Marine Fisheries Council, I believe is what the acronym goes for. But that's been a 10-year battle.
Right.
On the commercial side versus the recreational angler side. They give us 2 days on the Atlantic side, and I think one of the days was pretty calm this year. The other day, it was almost too dangerous to be out there. And a lot of people, by only having that 2-day season, in my opinion, it makes people push the limits of what their vessel and what their capabilities are, and go out there and put themselves in a dangerous situation just to try to have their opportunity to keep a red snapper for the year.
Right.
So I think it creates a potentially dangerous environment where there could be another system in place. I don't know what the answer is to it.
Yeah.
I think there's some good ideas out there. Just got to get, the right people in the right rooms to listen to some good ideas.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, and that's one of the things, man. People get all caught up onto wildlife management when they're talking about deer, and they forget about fish.
Right.
Know? I mean, the fish, that's the wildlife management too. I mean, it has to be managed. It has to be, maintained, and like what you're talking about has every aspect, about that.
Yeah, I mean, you just from the time I've started guiding full time, and specifically from the COVID time period, you're talking about 1,000% increase in the number of saltwater anglers in the state of Georgia.
Yeah,
1,000% increase. So I mean,
wow.
that's a lot of pressure on a fishery that hasn't seen significant regulation changes in 20 years. Louisiana's just recently changed their redfish regulations and limits. So now Georgia has the most liberal redfish regulations in the country.
Wow.
And I mean, we have an incredible redfish fishery, but it's not Louisiana. And if Louisiana is saying, hey, we need to take a little more conservative approach to what we're allowing being kept, then in my opinion, Georgia needs to at least take a look at it and consider following suit.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Yep.
But that's a whole nother deal when you start talking about those regulations and stuff. You can ruffle some feathers on both sides of that.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
You sure can, and you could talk and talk and talk forever on stuff like that because everybody's got opinions. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But so Flatwater Outfitters, how did that name come about? And you all have incorporated now with another lodge, I guess, outfitting business, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute.
Yeah, absolutely. So the name Flatwater Outfitters, it comes from a nickname my dad was given probably 30 years ago. Again, my dad's been a guide there, Mike Evans, for 50 years now, and used to run offshore trips. He and Rick Smith were kind of some of the pioneers, I guess, around our area for slow trolling, offshore for kingfish in the SKA heydays. And he ran offshore trips 74 days straight, 80 days straight. And finally, he just was fed up with going offshore when it was rough. And he started going to the end of the dock when Rick would ask him if he wanted to go, and he'd light a match. And if the wind blew the match out, he wouldn't go fishing. So they started calling him Flatwater. So that was, that was his nickname around the dock, because he wouldn't go out there when it was rough anymore. And
nice.
It just seemed like a fitting name for when I went full time to just pay a little bit of homage to him, and it was a pretty cool story if somebody asked. So
that is pretty cool. I didn't even know that. That's awesome.
Yep. So yeah, talking about
Mossy Pond Lodge.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been incredibly fortunate to have a really good friend of Mr. Brad Arrington, who's the owner of Mossy Pond Retrievers and Mossy Pond Lodge. And when our season would slow down fishing wise, December, January, February, March, that's when the plantation quail season, duck hunting, the pheasant hunting, and hog hunting would really pick up over at Mossy Pond Lodge. So I went over last year and did some guiding with Mr. Brad and helping them out and helping me out as well to keep me busy during some slower seasons. And we got to talking about, hey, your busy season's our slower season, our busy season's your slower. What better partnership to complement each other? And came to agreement where I work with them specifically for Mossy Pond Lodge now and bring Flatwater Outfitters into that company. So Mossy Pond and Flatwater are one and the same. I'm incredibly fortunate to be a part of that incredible organization. I've got resources that I never would have imagined having. I've got people in hospitality that are over and beyond. There's only so much that one person can do as a sole business owner. And when you put an incredible team like we have at Mossy Pond behind two really, really good brands, there's nothing but good things that can happen. So
yeah, for sure. That's awesome.
We're able to offer fishing, anything from deep sea to fly fishing on the saltwater side, and also have the amenities at the lodge. We can sleep 38 people in 5-star accommodations.
Wow.
And we also can offer, quail, duck, pheasant, hogs, sporting clays, trap and skeet. It's just really complements everything. It's an incredible experience now that's brought everything kind of full circle.
Man, that's really good that you all, get to offer that. I've seen you posting some things there, duck hunting and stuff like that, and even during turkey season. Y'all do turkey hunts there?
Absolutely. So we've got turkey hunts available in Georgia, South Georgia eastern birds, and we've also got got Rios and Merriams available in Nebraska. So we've got a lodge in Nebraska that we stood up this past year. We took our first groups out there. Everyone had success. Just awesome to be able to offer that in several different geographic locations. Same hospitality, same team that you're going to see down here in South Georgia, but also being able to offer those hunts in Nebraska as well.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. Great operation that you all got going on there. So, well, I think Dan's going to hit our salute to valor now. That's one of the things that we like to do on our podcast. And you were in law enforcement there, Carl, and like we said, we appreciate your service and your time to your community and for the country, because you worked for the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center there. So,
well, I appreciate that. Yep, that was a fun time in the career, and I got to see and do a lot of things and work with some incredible people that are still out there doing it. So
yeah, for
my
sure.
Thoughts are with them. Sure.
Yeah, and our thanks go out to your dad, because he spent 30 years there at the Federal Training Center.
That's right, 31 of them.
Yeah, awesome.
31. Wow,
yeah.
That's awesome.
Yep. So hit the salute there, Dan-O.
Yeah, like you said, here's a salute to valor for this evening. It's going to go to Patrick Myers of Kaling, Texas. He served for 4 years in the United States Marine Corps, where he acquired the rank of E4 Corporal. He did time in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. He did 1 year in Iraq, where he was injured, and November 5th of 2005, where he received combat action and a Purple Heart. So we just want to thank you, Patrick, for your service, your time overseas, and we hate to hear that you got injured, but I know it was a fight that you signed for and expected. Yeah. Just glad you made it home with us.
Yeah, definitely. Glad you made it home, and thank you, sir, for your service.
Yes, thank you.
Country. God bless you. All right. So, Dan-O, if you want to go back into some of the talking points there, well, he was hitting on fly fishing a little bit, so we can talk about fly fishing.
Yeah. If you want to talk a little bit about the fly fishing in the coastal regions and just overall how it differs from down the Keys to up there in the marshes in Georgia and all that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's something that's overlooked. It's gaining in a lot of popularity now. I've seen it over the last 2 or 3 years, where now people are starting to see that the opportunities are there in coastal Georgia for sight fishing. And if at first glance you come to our water and you look at it, you're like, you couldn't see anything in this stuff. But there are opportunities on certain tides where you have clear water or water that gets up in the grass where you can see tailing redfish. Our big full moon tides and big new moon tides make most of our inshore fishing pretty tough, but that's when our sight fishing for reds on fly gets really good. That tide jumps up to that 8.5 foot level and pushes water up in the grass where it doesn't normally get. And those redfish take advantage, go up there and grub for fiddler crabs, small grass shrimp, and things like that. And they're pretty easy to see when they're up there. So it gives us a really good opportunity to throw flies at them. It's a great first time fly fishing experience for someone that may not necessarily want to travel all the way to Isla Mirada on their first trip, or all the way to Louisiana if they're near the Georgia area. It gives them an opportunity to come get their feet on a bow, cast from a boat, see what the differences are from maybe a trout stream in North Georgia versus, saltwater where you've got wind, tide, and the bow of the boat, playing into some factors on casting. So it's really a great opportunity to get your, pardon the pun, but you get your feet wet with fly fishing.
Yeah.
And then, if you want to step up the challenge of it, we've got an incredible tarpon fishery that, from middle of June through all the way through the end of September, 1st of October, huge pushes of tarpon are coming up that coast and using our inlets to stop in and feed. And they give us plenty of opportunities to fly fish them. So it's, you can have all of the big game fish, tarpon, redfish, even the sea trout when they're stacked up are an opportunity for fly fishing. So it's a fishery that's being taken advantage of by few, but more now, and we're happy to see new fly fishermen coming in every year. It's become enjoyable to me. I never anticipated it, but the educational aspect of it, where I get a lot of fly anglers who have cast before, but we get the opportunity to do some fly casting lessons in the saltwater realm. So to be able to expose them to that, say, hey, I know your normal cast when you're fishing a trout stream may be this, but let's try this technique to kind of help you get a little more line out or be a little more accurate and leading fish where you're seeing them, where you're not just drifting it down a bank, but you're actively leading a fish that you can see. It's pretty exciting to see somebody see that for the first time and the light bulb go off.
Oh yeah, definitely, man. That's awesome. So, like, wasn't it like Yeti, one of the things that they invented a Yeti, not only for, durability, but as a standing platform for like casting fly fishing rods and stuff like that?
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt that at all. I don't know if that was specific in design, but I know when those coolers became wildly popular, there were a lot of people standing on them on the bow of boats. So if it wasn't an intended result, then it certainly was an unexpected benefit of them for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I read a story about that one time, and I think that was in, part of their design of the business. It was to use it as a casting platform on the edge of boats and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I mean they even come up with I'm sure someone showed them, but you can actually reverse the handles on those coolers. Take the pin out, reverse them around, and the handle will actually lay flat against the cooler itself to keep your fly line from getting hung on it.
Oh wow!
Yep, it's pretty cool design.
Nice. I didn't even know that myself.
I'm gonna have to go look at mine now. I'm trying to think.
You can push those 2 metal pins out of your flat down. Just turn the handle around, and then when you latch it, it'll literally lay flat up against the cooler, and it'll keep it from getting line hung on it.
That's awesome. I'm gonna have to check that out tomorrow.
You got him wanting to play with his new toy.
It'll be cooler. There'll be cooler handles scattered all over the yard.
Yeah.
I'm gonna need a couple more so I can play with them.
Well, I tell you, we can get them for you, buddy. We got plenty of them sitting around here. That's for sure.
Yeah, don't leave that.
We got thousands of dollars, in Yeti stuff. I mean, it's been a great partnership that we've had, and a lot of people's like, well, I wouldn't pay that much for a cooler and blah blah blah. But honestly, you really get what you pay for. I mean,
you do, and
yeah. I mean,
my father-in-law, he's had mine over at his house for about a week and a half now, and I went and took it back because that's my truck cooler. I got to have that for work.
Yeah.
And, man, do you really have to take it? He said, I'll save so much money on ice compared to this. What's he got? He's got that Lifetime. He said, I don't have to fill that one up but every 3 days compared to my Lifetime. I'm filling up every day.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. For sure. I mean, and you're talking about, 89, 90 degree, 92 degree days here.
Yeah. In the sunlight, too.
In the sunlight, sitting on his back deck. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll tell you, just from another angle with that company, I mean, I have no affiliation whatsoever with them, just from a completely neutral standpoint, what they do for the industry, for guides, for anglers, the conservation efforts, promotions, videos. I mean, they're an industry leader in that stuff, and I mean that, to me, that's as beneficial as the incredible product that they make.
Yeah, you're right, and that's one of the reasons we have stuck by them. They've been through a couple different controversial issues over the years, and that was we stopped all sales and everything for 30 some days until we could find out what the cause was behind the thing that they had with the NRA.
Right.
And, we've read several letters that came out from the owners and the president, and I felt comfortable with it and, trusted in what they said. And, we started it back up. I mean, because, with something like that, I mean, honestly, it's hard to back a company like that is going to go against our fundamental constitutional rights. And, we talk about it all the time on here about different companies that are not 2A friendly and different things like that. So, I mean, but they were true to their word, and,
right.
They did what they said they was going to do. So I appreciate that. And I respect that in a small company like that, because they two brothers started that company. And, I like the fact that they have grown into a large company being so small. You know what I mean? I like that America, companies do that. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that wasn't a paid advertisement or anything. No. we are a dealer for them, but I mean, we don't use products we don't believe in.
That's right.
I mean, I'm not going to use something that I'm just going to put out there because they pay me or because they give us a deal. That ain't the way it works with us.
That's right.
I mean, we affiliate ourselves with products that we use. I mean, I don't reach out to a company that I'm not going to use their products.
Right.
I mean, most of the time we reach out to companies because we're already using their products and we want to promote it more.
Absolutely.
So, but anyways.
Absolutely.
All right, well, back on subject here.
Yeah, we had a little side note there.
Yeah,
that's the good stuff. The side notes are the good stuff.
Yeah, it is sometimes. I mean, you get on little tangents like that, and I mean, sometimes it can be good talking points.
Yeah.
I mean, that wasn't even in our talking points there.
It's not? Oh, my gosh, no. We went off script.
We went off script.
We're the kings of going off script.
You'd know if you kept paying attention.
We're the kings of it.
Oh, gosh.
So, talking about fishing the Keys, Louisiana, how do those places relate in the methods used? Is a lot of different methods for all locations, or is it kind of baseline the same?
I specifically, the three areas or the three locations, Louisiana, South Florida being the Keys, and the backcountry like the Everglades, and then Georgia, actually fish pretty similar as it pertains to fly fishing. I mean, you're fishing in 1.5 feet of water, 2 foot of water at the most where you can see the fish. And I'm talking snook, redfish, the redfish being in Louisiana, snook and redfish being in the backcountry and the Keys, and then redfish obviously in Georgia. But those fish on flats where we can sight fish them act very, very similar. What I've learned from all three areas is they'll use typically an entrance route to a flat and an exit route from that flat, depending on the tide. And if you can figure out those locations and kind of their route, instead of chasing behind them or pushing over them and blowing them off of a location, you can set yourself up to wait for them to come to you. The success rate goes way up. And the fly fishing game is all about getting that fly to a place where the fish just thinks he's happened upon something, scared it, and then eats it. If he ever figures out that it's been put in front of him, the game's pretty much up on any of those.
Sure. Now, talking about like boats and stuff, you guys use a high platform or?
So yeah, we're at 5 boats now. My fly fishing skiff is an 18-foot Bossman, and I've pushed a lot of boats with a pole, and I enjoyed every one of them. I tell you that a Maverick HBX is one of the best out there. A Chitham is at the top of the list. I don't have an affiliation with a boat company at all. I fished the boat that I have because at the time that I got into guiding fly fishing, it's what I could have afforded at the time. And it just happened. I got lucky, and it's an incredible boat. Floats in like 5 inches of water and takes water.
That's awesome.
So, but yeah, that's the boat I use to get, if I need to get really skinny up in the marsh for those tailing reds. My tarpon fly fishing boat is a 18-foot action craft with a 115 on it. It also has a platform I can pole it. A little more trolling motor use with that boat. It's just heavier, and a lot of times we're fishing tarpon in 8 to 10 foot of water, or maybe even a little bit deeper. So poling the boat really doesn't become as efficient as using the trolling motor or drifting with the school.
Man, that's one of the things I wanted to hit on was how many boats you all have in your fleet now. Because when we were there, you had just purchased your second or third boat. So,
right.
I mean, that was exciting. I knew you was really excited to get out there and get it.
Absolutely. So it seemed like each year that I would turn a profit business. I was like, man, this looks good. I'd turn around and then buy a boat with it. So then I'm back in the black. But the benefit of that was now I've got a boat for every purpose. And now with joining up with Mossy Pond, we purchased a fleet of boats that can just about anything we want to do. We've got a 25-foot center console bay boat hybrid that I can run offshore. We ran an offshore trip in it today. And we can fish trout, redfish, flounder in a foot of water with it as well. We've also got a 22-foot Sea Pro that is an incredible inshore boat. 360, you can float in 12 inches, and it is incredible on fuel. And we've also got a 22-foot Pathfinder. So anyone that knows anything about saltwater fishing, Pathfinder is a staple on it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, those Pathfinders are nice.
No, I think it's great, and we're definitely, proud of you all getting to where you are because, I mean, I just love seeing American businesses do well, small businesses, and especially in the outdoor industry. But, you know, like you said, you've been putting that money back into the business every year. I mean, that's what you got to do to build it. And then you get to a certain point to where you've got everything you need and you just keep on rolling.
That's it. And I mean, yeah, I mean, there's been some good fortune, you know, obviously, I mean, that's come my way through partnerships and, you know, business opportunities, but mostly that credit goes to the clients and customers who trust us with their hard-earned money that come down and fish with us
for sure
every season. I mean, I've been very fortunate. I have a lot of return customers, and then they in turn refer people to me. And I mean, none of this would be possible. I wouldn't be sitting here talking with y'all if it wasn't for the people who, you know, come down and go fishing with us. So that goes ultimately to them.
Yeah. I mean, I've met several people down there in the Brunswick area, the Golden Isles area, just because of you, and it's other great small businesses like the city seafood market with Frank. I mean,
absolutely.
You talk about some of the amazing. I mean, they catch some of the best shrimp off of that coast that I have ever ate in my life, and I'm telling you the truth. It is. There's nothing like Golden Isle shrimp. I mean, that South Atlantic shrimp to me, and obviously it'd be hard for someone not to believe I'm biased, but I mean, I've lived all over the place. I've eaten seafood all over the world from working, you know, in the job I previously had. Lived in Louisiana. There's not a shrimp, in my opinion, that tastes better than a wild caught Georgia shrimp. Yep.
There's a flavor to them that is just better, in my opinion.
Yes, I tell you what, we go to that place down there near the pier all the time.
There's right there in the village.
Iguanas.
Yep.
We go to Iguanas every time we're there, and man, they've got some amazing fried shrimp. But I mean,
they have wonderful fried shrimp. If you ever get an opportunity to check out a restaurant over there when you're near St. Simon's, it's not a plug or anything. It's just I enjoy eating there. It's really good. It's called Halyards.
Oh yeah.
Yep. It's incredible. Really, really good. And the executive chef there, Dave, he's a guide as well. Great fly guide.
Nice. Yeah, I love talking about good food, local food. You know, I would rather eat at a local place than a chain any day. I mean, there's very few.
Oh, absolutely.
There's very few chains that I go to anyways. But when it comes to small businesses and local places, that's what we search for when we go out of town. And like we've been coming to St. Simon's for, good Lord, probably 20 years now. And, you know, we've got places that we go every year down there. We go back to the same places, you know. It's awesome. Brogan's right there at the pier. And then they also got a Brogan's North. Gosh, you talk about a good hamburger and onion rings. I mean, it's just
hard.
I'm gonna have to get down there.
To find a better place to watch a Georgia football game.
Yeah, they're Georgia Bulldog fans for sure. That's for sure.
That's good.
Yep,
that's good. Well, something we like to do every episode is a verse of the day. So we'll go ahead and kick that off. So
yeah, we like to have a good time and just do whatever. I mean, it get crazy every now and then, but we are thankful and we're blessed for each and every day that we have to spend in the outdoors in the beautiful creations that God created for us.
That's right.
Absolutely, right. Amen.
So tonight's scripture is 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 4, and we'll read down here just a little bit, but this is just talking. Paul here is talking about the love of God, and there's a lot of people that talk about love, and when you really read what the love of God is like, it's a little bit different than the world's definition of love.
Yeah.
So what he says here, and this is out of the Passion, it says, love is large and incredibly patient. Love is gentle and consistently kind to all. It refuses to be jealous when blessing comes to someone else. And then I'll just read one more. It says, love does not brag about one's achievements nor inflate its own importance. And I think I thought that was really good about love is gentle, consistently kind to all. You don't see that a whole lot in the world,
No.
But I see it a lot with like the guys that we're around.
Yeah.
Consistently, just people who, have a relationship with the Lord. They love His creation. They love getting out, partaking in, conservation, different things like that.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's, a lot of, like we talked before, I mean, it's not that you got to be a Bible thumper and stay
absolutely not
at your house and read your
Bible. That turns people off really more than anything.
And that's all you talk about is the Bible. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, God wants you to live life and have fun doing it, but He also wants you to, serve Him.
Yeah, absolutely.
And,
Yeah.
you're talking about love. I think love, one of the main things about love compared to the worldly definition of love, like the phileo love, which is the worldly kind of love,
right?
Compared to the God kind of love, it's selfless.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yes, it's more about others than it is
it's
you.
more about others. I mean, you would rather somebody else go over before yourself.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it's awesome.
Yeah, I think unconditional hits it there is where, you don't have to have someone that's in their best days or in their worst days. You're still there for them and still love them the exact same way.
Absolutely,
I mean, I've seen
definitely
friends that struggle, and I think you hit on a really good point with, guys in the outdoor industry, guys and gals in the outdoor industry. What I've been so proud to see is how supportive they are of each other in good times and in bad. When someone's struggling, they're just as supportive as when they're good. And it's not just because there's something they can benefit from. It's because they genuinely care about their fellow man.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. That's awesome.
Huh.
And that's few and far in between in these day and times.
It really is,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, you got a small, close-knit group of people, just a handful in every group that do that.
Yeah.
I mean,
and really, those are the people you're drawn to.
Yeah.
The people that actually care about you.
Yep. And we talk about it all the time. It's not something that we major on. We're not going to have a whole, episode 5 times in a row and shove that down people's throat about, Christianity and the Bible and different things like that. But we acknowledge it.
Yeah.
And that's one thing we want to do, like we do our veterans. We want to acknowledge the blessings and the things that God has done for us.
Yes.
So that we can do what we do right now.
I wouldn't even know how to love my wife if it wasn't for Jesus.
Yeah.
And that's the truth, man.
I'm going to be honest with you. I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I mean, before I was in church and different things like that, there's a different perspective of those things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But yeah, we have a good time and we talk about God and family and country and everything outdoors.
Right.
So,
Right.
I mean,
that's the important things right there.
That's the important thing.
Hey, that's it, man.
God, family, country, and everything outdoors.
Yeah, what else is there?
That's it.
Oh man. Well, let's hit on a couple more things, Carl, and we'll let you off here since we had those technical issues. I know we've kept you about 30 minutes longer than normal. So
no worries at all. I'm all good. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, I hear you, brother. Well, let's talk about some of your partners that you have there.
Yeah, absolutely. As in guides or with the lodge itself?
Well, partners like product partners, guides, any kind of things that you all use that you all have found out that it's great products through the years and you continue to use those, different things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Right now, I'll be honest with you, I've partnered with companies in the past. I've had contracts with companies in the past, and to me, what works best for me and currently is that I'm really unaffiliated with a brand. I use products that work really well.
Yeah.
I have open lines of communication with those companies. The only one I would say I'm actually just involved with directly would be Florida Fishing Products. Their reels. I've used the same set of Osprey 3000 inshore reels for 5 years straight, and they're still like brand new out of the box. And
I've used those Ospreys. Those are nice reels.
They're incredible. I've got every size they've got from their smallest reel up to their 8,000. And that's when I made my order for, our expansion, they're the first people I picked up the phone and called. Cale Wilson with that company. And that's what I like about that company more than anything. If I pick up the phone, I'm talking to the company. I'm talking to the man, making the decisions that, wants to help the consumer. And that company was born out of frustration from my understanding. I don't want to speak for them. But it was born out of frustration of not getting any customer service from the giant reel companies that were out there. And they were guides themselves who just said, you know what, we'll start our own company and we'll make sure we take care of the people who use our product.
That's awesome.
And they have, through, by and far, they have done extremely well by me. Anytime I need something, it's next day and it's at my door. They have been really good to me. So that is a company that if you're looking to buy, an inshore reel, a freshwater reel, or even that larger 5,000, 6,000, 8,000 series for tarpon offshore, take a look at that product. They make an incredible reel.
Yeah, that's the reels we used when we was on your charter there with the trout, wasn't it not?
That's them. And those reels are still in service today and are just as smooth as when I took them out the box.
That's crazy.
Yeah, see, now talking about the customer service, once we get our fishing call line set up,
fishing calls.
Absolutely.
Fishing calls. Yeah.
We'll
Got
get
a
with
fish-
you on that.
A fish whistle. They've got to come up with a fish whistle.
Oh God. We were out to dinner with Hunt Chef when he come in and we did that Cabela's Vendor Day thing here, and he was talking about, now listen, y'all got to come out with a fish call, and I'm like, what, is this guy on some kind of drugs or something? Oh man. But it's an off the wall thing to get people's attention, and that's how he was pushing it, and I'm like, he was like, we got to do this before, like right before turkey season, or and promote the fishing along with our recipes and things like that and the seasonings. And I'm like, you got it all figured out, don't you, bud?
Man, what the bad thing is here is I'm going to give the gentleman a little bit of credence here, because all of the big, huge billfish tournament boats, I mean, the millions and millions of dollars they spend on those boats, like the new trend or a trend is the acoustics that they're using to produce bait fish sounds while they're trolling to raise blue marlin, white marlin, striped marlin.
Really?
So they've spent untold amount of money on acoustic research to bring these fish up. They're fishing 2,000, 3,000 foot of water sometimes.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So they're installing speakers in liquid to be able to produce the sound at a clarity that it transmits to be able to raise those billfish up, and that's like a huge portion of that side of fishing now they're pouring all kinds of research into. So fish calls are not really that big. It's not that far out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah. Oh man, that's crazy. Well,
The only problem with ours, you're going to have to stick your head underwater to use them.
Exactly. It's like upside down snorkel.
Yeah. Oh, you'll have to do it while you're in a dive class or something.
That's right.
Out there scuba diving. Dan will start his scuba diving lessons with our fish calls.
There you go.
Hey, we may be on something here.
Yeah. All right, Carl. Well, we appreciate you, brother. Thank you for coming on this evening.
Man, fellas, I really appreciate y'all having me on. It's been a blast. I enjoyed it. If y'all can make it down I know y'all are coming pretty soon, Mike, but if y'all are ever down that way, if y'all ever need anything, certainly look me up. Be happy to take care of you any way we can.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah, I'm going to have to get down there one time with Mike, and we'll have to get out there and catch some of them sea trout.
Oh, buddy, we'll have a blast. And now that he's got the turkey hunting, we can go down there in the off season and do turkey hunting. We always got a place to stay.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely, you do.
Yeah.
So y'all just let me know if it can be hunted or fished in Georgia. I'll do my best to put you on. If they had a butterfly season, I'd probably hunt them down there.
What you need to do is get set up somewhere down in Florida, because I'm really wanting one of them Osceolas.
And I've got some connections over there. I can't tell you whose property we'd have to run across to get on, but I got some connections down there.
Nice.
That's all right.
All right, Carl. Well, it's been a pretty awesome time having you on tonight, man. And us being with you down there during the charter. I mean, your professionalism and your respectfulness and just your customer service is unmatched, man. We appreciate everything you've done for us while we was there.
Well, man, I appreciate it, Matt. I mean, y'all make it easy on me. So, I mean, having a good group makes it easy. So, thank you very much for the kind words. It goes both ways.
For sure. Well, before we get off, just let everybody know where they can find you and where they can schedule a charter. Give them phone numbers, website, and all that good information.
Yeah, so you can call me directly. My telephone number is 912-242-3919. You can also look us up at mossypondlodge.com or flatwateroutfittersga.com. Also have an Instagram page. It's Flatwater_Outfitters. And the Lodge Instagram page is Team MPR. So any of those methods, we can get you set right up. The girls in the office will be happy to put you in the calendar. You can call me directly, and we'll get you set up.
All right,
Awesome.
man. We appreciate you. You heard him right there. Get on the website, check it out, and call that number. Get you a charter scheduled today for this summer. Thanks for listening, everybody. We appreciate you. Be sure to check us out on Apple Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and all the other networks. We're on about 18 other ones. So we just started our Instagram page today, and Carl's post was one of the first posts on our official page for On the Limb with Nature's Voice Game Calls. So we've actually separated that from Nature's Voice Game Calls page originally, and it's got its own page. So be sure to check us out. Thanks for listening, guys. Have a good night. This episode of On the Limb with Nature's Voice Game Calls is brought to you by Carts Towing and Timco Auto Transport. Local and long-distance towing, auto recovery, roadside assistance, auto lockouts, and jump starts. And they also do repossessions. Give them a call today at 304-949-2323 or 304-925-0858. Again, that's Carts Towing and Timco Auto Transport, 304-949-2323, 304-925-0858.